Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Justice and Pieces guest speaker series. Today, we are joined by Laurie. Laurie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here today. Perhaps you can give, I know it's a very extensive background, and I note that you've just taught your last class last month there at Durham College. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about all that you've done in the paralegal field.
Okay. So I started out as a law clerk in 1983 on Bay Street, and I moved into a position in Oshawa in about 1993, and again law clerk. And I was so fortunate in 1995. The lawyers at the firm had a meeting with me and said, "We need a paralegal in Durham region, and there aren't any. So we would like you to start a business. We'll guarantee, and lawyers never guarantee, but we'll guarantee that you will make an exponential amount of money um, as a paralegal in your own business than you would as a law clerk. And we will provide all of the referrals." So I'm always flexible and open to new ideas. And I took the opportunity under their guidance to create a business and became a paralegal. And within 2 weeks, I was being trained by criminal lawyers, almost all of them in Durham region, to run bail hearings on every Friday night and every Saturday. So the lawyers didn't want to be in the bail hearings on Friday night and Saturday as a routine area of practice. And then I was trained in small claims litigation back then. I will tell you the jurisdiction was $1,000, and most of it was NSF checks from businesses. So I had a huge small claims practice because back then there wasn't your bank machine and your debit. So people paid by check, and a lot of them, the checks would be non-sufficient funds. So that was a lucrative area of practice. And then I was trained in simple divorces. And I ran a divorce business as a paralegal, referrals from lawyers. I did some mediation. Um, and I did that until the year before licensing, 2007. And then the Law Society said, no more paralegals. We know what happened to that system after that, in that it went um, quite quickly up to 35% of people being unrepresented. And then 53%, I believe it was, in or about the year 2013. And now I believe it is in the range of 67%. And I was one of the paralegals who worked as the chair of the the LSO and Government Relations Committee of the Ontario Paralegal Association from 2016 to 19, working with the Law Society and the Attorney General. And in meetings, it was quite demanding, that work. It was volunteer, but we were fighting for paralegals to be able to um, do work in family law again. So I have recently, I was in the inaugural class of the Family Law Support Service Provider program, and I obtained my license in August. I started my teaching in 1990 through 1999 at a private college. And then I was called by a colleague, a lawyer colleague at Durham College, would you be interested in writing a paralegal program? and I was certified in curriculum development. It's my probably out of my entire career, that's my favorite part of my career is curriculum development. I just love it. Um, so we wrote the original Durham College paralegal program and then went through the accreditations in 2008 by the Law Society. And then after 27 years, I retired April 30th and finished teaching in the program. Part of what the students identified um, was that they were lacking, in their words, not mine, um, the opportunity to watch the experts in action in trials. Because although we would go to court and we would observe, it's not every day that trials run. So I started continuing professional development seminars for students in person, and I had wonderful colleagues who would come in. They would do provincial offenses mock trials, criminal bail hearings, um, assessment hearings and small claims, motions to set aside default, common motions for particulars. And we started combining the required documents with that. And organically, those students, once they graduated, they said, we really want to keep coming to these seminars as graduates. And I welcomed them. And then once they became licensed, they asked me to approach the Law Society and have them accredited. And those have turned into seminars that the goal is that they not be cost prohibitive for students and paralegals in order that we can raise the bar to the paralegal profession, raise the reputation, get as many people trained properly as we can, and allow students to enhance their education by being able to participate in these opportunities. So in a nutshell, JP, that's my career, except I always continued running a part-time paralegal practice while I taught. It's really important that teachers stay in the field and um, they keep up to date with the changes and what is happening in the courts.
Thank you for that, Laurie. So I think again from all of there's different segments there, and we can kind of go through each one. I mean, obviously, given that you've just wrapped up there with teaching there. I mean, over from your curriculum development, which you said you had a very strong passion for, of all the things you've done, to now sort of seeing how paralegal education has developed, right? I mean.
Mhm.
As you were working pre-licensing and then education became a component there. I mean, what have you seen over the years? I think you've probably had thousands of, or maybe even tens of thousands of
Mhm.
different students in law clerk or paralegal. I mean, what did you see, I guess, most recently in terms of the importance of paralegal education and what are the strong suits and what are things that perhaps, in the next 25, 30 years as paralegals come out that we can be improving on in terms of the delivery of education.
Well, I will say the most important one that I have recognized is the original paralegal program at Durham College. The first class started in 2000 and they graduated in 2002 from the diploma program. That program had a 280-hour field placement. And then when the Law Society accredited the programs, they only required a minimum of 120 hours. Let's face it, for colleges, that's a lot less expensive to offer. So I fought it, but I lost, and the field placement um, was decreased to 120 hours. Well, we've just seen the Law Society identify that's not enough from the input from students and from paralegals. And the Law Society has increased the minimum number of hours to 240 hours. So that's pretty close to our original 280, and that will offer, exponentially more experience. Um, I also am 100% in support of the Law Society in their new qualifications for paralegal professors, in that you either to teach in the program have to have a teacher training certificate or 1 year experience teaching, but also you have to have 3 years experience in the area of law that you're teaching. And I will tell you, I taught at Sheridan, Seneca, um, and Durham College, all part-time, and at one of the private colleges. And I will say I saw a lot of teachers that were teaching subjects that they didn't have experience in. And students, they love hearing about war stories. So they love hearing about, okay, now we're taking motions today. And I would talk about in small claims, different motions that I'd appeared on, different outcomes that happened, maybe different things that happened that were totally unforeseeable. But all students said that helps them learn because those stories they remember. So that is really important. I've seen over the years, um, the standards of learning, in my humble opinion, go down. For instance, I teach from the rules of the Small Claims Court, and I develop my own curriculum, and lesson plans and PowerPoint presentations, in accordance with the presentation of, let's say, Rule 8 service that we're studying one day. Um, these students used to study from, most of the colleges used to study from a textbook called The Law and Business Administration in Canada. That was a contracts and torts textbook, but it offered much more. Agency law, substantive principles and property, corporate, um, and in these wills and estates, substantive, not practical. And these are aspects that students could gain enhanced knowledge in order to practice in small claims court. And I've noticed through new publishing that the publishers offer pre-made PowerPoints. They offer test bank questions. And I think the expectations of professors are decreased now. And I don't think the students have the same opportunities for enhancing their learning. And that is so important for paralegal students. It doesn't matter if you want a career as a paralegal in private practice, if you want a career as a paralegal in a job of employment, if you eventually want to go on to law school, you are going to have to be accountable to enhance your own knowledge. College programs, they prepare you for entry-level positions in any field of employment. And you have opportunities as a student to enhance your own learning. And the CPDs are an example of that.
Yeah, I mean that's an excellent point there, Laurie, right? Is that and this may be coupled with some of the data there. I think the Law Study's most recent annual report said that about 37, 38%
Mhm.
of licensees, right? So those who've gone through past the exam are now actually providing legal services, and that kind of maybe looks into look we're looking now at expanding. Well, we just have, right, the first batch I think is going through 120 to 240 hours. But I mean, it also depends on, well, what is the experience and the education they're getting in those 240 hours,
Right.
because there's a lot of variety there. And that's contingent on then getting that experience and then being able to go out and either practice on your own. But if there's no entry level positions and you're trained to be, an entry level paralegal to start with, to develop, through internship, through post internship, through post licensing, the necessary skills to then be able to run trials. Well, if you're not going to get that experience, then you're kind of given the, the sink or swim uh, opportunity, which, unfortunately, the numbers are saying a lot. I mean, we don't know actually, but what the other 62% are doing, but that if you're not able to get going, um, you may go to a different career or what have you, right? So what do you think can be done there in terms of, you've identified, the need for greater experiential learning, and certainly things like CPDs and things beyond the classroom, even this, right? I mean, this was essentially my way of bringing those war stories from all the different people I've brought in to
That's right.
supplement, anything, in any other areas where you can get far
Mhm.
more, right? I'm like, well, who am I to kind of talk about these things when I can bring you somebody who's been practicing criminal law for 40 years, right? And so all of that helps the students, but I mean, what else can be done there? And I mean, addressing some of these things and again, continuing to build into the future for paralegal education.
I don't I don't know whether it's the responsibility of the colleges to do that. The colleges are given um, learning objectives um, from the Law Society, so competencies that the colleges must teach. And the colleges turn that into learning outcomes. But I think it's really important in the classroom that there is experiential learning happening in the classroom. So, for example, when I taught small claims court, there were 2 hours of lecture class and 1 hour of computer lab class. So, when we were studying commencement of a proceeding, there's a plaintiff's claim. Well, how do you draft that? So then we would have an hour every week in the computer lab. We would be drafting claims. We would be drafting defenses. We would be putting that theoretical knowledge into practice in school. And I think that's very important for the colleges to focus on that. Then, when the students go out on field placement, they have exposure to the documents, completing those documents. There's another, all students can also benefit from. For example, I'm having a continuing professional development seminar. It's 2 evenings in October for a total of 5 hours. The first evening focuses on, and this was requested by paralegals. The first evening focuses on the documents, the post-judgment interest calculations, and I give a formula in an Excel file to the attendees, and the process of beginning the enforcement of a judgment in small claims court. The second night focuses on um, contentious advocacy. These are not easy questionings. And in submitting to a judge, if someone is not being cooperative, you should be granted a contempt order. That's going to require strong submissions. Those CPDs run $15 to $20 for students because I don't want to be cost prohibitive. And I want them, so they read a chapter in a book about enforcing a judgment with a garnishment or writ of seizure and sale. But do you realize that it begins with questioning that debtor going through a hearing? And these are evenings, and it allows students to enhance their learning. On top of that, they can put that on their resume. and show field placement hosts or employers actually that they have participated in these. They've taken the initiative. It's a competitive job market out there. Last week on LinkedIn, JP, I posted last week and the week before, I posted, I believe it was 3 entry level, no experience required, 2 of them, no license required jobs. So they are out there. But I think a lot of graduates go to Indeed and they search paralegal. I post jobs that do not have the word paralegal in them, but require a paralegal license. Case manager, WSIB. Um, the resolution officer positions with ombudsmans in Ontario. Those are paralegals after taking ADR. They're shoo-ins for that. And there are a number of advanced mediation programs they can take or community mediation that are quite affordable, that it's really honestly enhancing your learning, enhancing your qualifications, and giving yourself a step up above the others because it's competitive in any job market. And another way to do that is to ask your field placement host, may I do 40 more volunteer hours? And then you can say on your resume, I exceeded the Law Society required hours. So these are all, students have to be accountable also.
Yeah, that's an important point too, right?
Yeah,
Is you can't just take them to the materials. They got to sort of engage with that and then
right.
go and build on it, right? Like the expression, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink or something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, that's an important piece, right? Is that there is more to be done on their end, right, as well
Mhm.
to go that route. So maybe you could tell us a little bit. You've mentioned some of the CPDs that are coming up, and certainly the factors that it's very affordable, right? I mean, a lot of the
Mhm.
CPD options that you see, even coming from a big organizations, you're looking at 200, 300, 400, $500 for a full day, um, and those are cost prohibitive, right? If you're a
Mhm.
student or a new licensee, even that, well, you got to get these hours every year. But I mean,
Yes.
yes, and in fairness, there's a bunch of things that you can get for free or discounted. But how have you found in terms of what's coming up as well, first of all, but in terms of you mentioned the genesis there from students wanting to do things in the evenings, connecting, getting those war stories. But what are some of the different offerings that you have, and any other information you can share?
And in the CPDs, my goal was, and I did not meet my goal because of the requirements of the FLSP. That took a lot more than I had anticipated. So my goal had been to have a website September 1. No, I don't have it yet. My website developer is reminding me every week now with the accredited and non-accredited CPD videos and materials for sale for people. So that is the goal. I have to record. I have 22 right now, so 66 hours of recordings to do, but that is the ultimate goal. And right now I have been doing them by Zoom still, once or twice a month. I have a notary public CPD that is I will say, a bestseller. The goal is to train paralegals because paralegals now apply as a notary public since August 2020 under the expedited lawyer track. So it's for lawyers and paralegals. And it teaches you how to notarize. It, the general public don't know what notarizing is. Luckily, I had worked as an estates law clerk and I prepared all those notarizing documents for years and years. I wasn't the first notary to apply because I wasn't sure if I wanted to become one. But I have since obtained my license later in 2020. So that is one CPD. It runs roughly 4 or 5 times a year based on demand. Once I get to 50 people, I put another one on. But that one is accredited for 3 professionalism hours with the Law Society. And for students, good heavens, learn this now. And then once you get your paralegal license, you can apply for your notary license with the Ministry of the Attorney General, read through the materials again. It's like a how-to handbook. And you can, if you're going into business, you can offer notary services. Or in a position of employment, you can say, I'm a notary public. And that's another additional qualification that you may have over somebody else. And training yourself ahead of time by taking the CPD helps. We have coming up in October the debtor examination. As I said, that's the beginning of the small claims enforcement process. And for paralegal students and for paralegals, there's a lot of difficulty with the calculations that have to be done on these forms. So I go through them because the majority of them right now are being rejected by the small claims court for the improper calculations. In November, we have advocacy that is put on by myself and Drew Samuels. That is running the third week in November. And it is a 3-hour CPD. And for example, for students, it's $15 plus HST. For paralegals, it's $30 plus HST. And it teaches advocacy with both a court and tribunal practical basis. And it's not going into theory, it's going, what do we do? And all of our CPDs allow for questions. They allow for question and answers and discussion. In December, I'm presenting at the 12-minute paralegal with the Law Society. So I have the Notary Public CPD going, and I am hoping to have an introduction to the Immigration and Refugee Board, CPD, because paralegals, I represent in the Immigration Division and the Immigration Appeal Division. The Immigration and Refugee Board has 4 divisions, 4 tribunals. I used to represent in the Refugee Protection Division, the RPD, and the Refugee Appeal Division. But paralegals don't realize there's a lot of work in the Immigration Division and the Immigration Appeal Division. But you have to have a basis to the Immigration and Refugee Board first. So what will be coming in 2026 is an affordable paralegal immigration certificate that I'm putting together. December 17th, though, the case for the scope of paralegals in immigration is being heard by the Ontario Court of Appeal. So obviously, I'd like to see if we still only have the jurisdiction in the tribunals or if there's anything added to that. And then another CPD that will be coming is the legal drafting, pleadings, and motion materials. They're not easy to draft. Claims and defenses and different causes of action, different wordings, different motions. Like a motion for substituted service, some of them are pretty tricky. So that one's coming also. One other thing, JP, sorry. For the CPDs, I supervised an Access to Justice Hub initiative at the Durham Community Legal Clinic for 5 years from 2018 to 2023. And I mentored between 20 and sorry, yeah, 20 and 30 paralegal students each year on a 350-hour field placement. So, under the Law Society rules of conduct, because I was the supervising paralegal and the only licensed paralegal, we offered pro bono small claims and provincial offenses services. So many of those files came with me because I couldn't just say to the clients, oh, sorry, we closed. And I couldn't find paralegals in the Durham region who were willing to take a number of pro bono files. So I still mentor students, and they have the opportunity to work on these files, but a high percentage of the CPDs does pay for pro bono legal services for those vulnerable clients. So we're not registered nonprofit. I'm looking into that. But a significant amount of our proceeds covers the court fees and different other disbursements and fees that come up for those vulnerable clients.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly a very excellent initiative, and certainly I can sort of speak, just like you mentioned, Drew Samuels there, right? I actually just
Mhm.
wrapped up a board meeting minutes before we started here, so well aware of over the last
Mhm.
4 years at least of the hub and everything there. Now, one of the things you did mention, that you did just finish this year, and it's kind of full circle for you, as you mentioned, prior to licensing, you can do some family work. Then, it disappeared. I mean, I'm actually kind of a little interested in that history, as you pointed out. But now it's come full circle where you have the FLSP, so you are able to, I think, very recently take on family work. So maybe you can kind of tell us a little bit of that journey, and then specifically, what is the FLSP and how that process was and what you can do now.
Sure. Back in the day, I I did joint divorces where both people are applying for the divorce together, so no one has to be served. They agree on everything. Usually have a court order, separation agreement. Some of them have been separated for 20 years, and then one of them meets somebody else. Some people don't have any children, and after a couple of years of marriage, a lot of clients came to me and said, we fell out of love. Um, Not for me to judge. It's just to do the procedures. And so I focused on that in my practice. Um, and it provided access to justice for people. Those court forms aren't simple for lay people to do. And the two parties, no matter how cooperative you are, you have a little bit of emotion and resentment and that you have to deal with. It's easier having someone take you through that. But back then, we could make a motion to a Superior Court of Justice judge and for to represent someone, and the judges got to know us. And they usually, if it was a simple matter, they would say, certainly you can represent. Now, it took, and I will tell you, Convocation December 2019 passed the motion that there would be a scope for paralegals developed. That did not come to fruition until 2024. That was 5 years later. The lawyers I was in on those meetings, and the lawyers were very protective of what they saw as their territory. But the fact of the matter is that the self-represented parties and the parties that want services from paralegals are not the parties that have the money to pay $300, $400 an hour to a lawyer or more, um, and are in contentious matters. So the lawyers, 67% of people are unrepresented. So we know that um, that was not working. The FLSP was an excellent program. We were in the inaugural class. So remember, it was brand new professors. They were not only learning the technology, to teach online because it is an online program, but they were practicing things that they had learned about teaching methodologies, different learning styles. So they were brand new. The materials were very good. We could have had more practical exercises, and I understand that the surveys that we did, the inaugural class, they have added more practical assignments. Um, it was grueling and demanding. It attendance is on the Fanshawe website. It is mandatory. And if people just think about when you're in college, like when people don't come to class and then they ask a question about something that was covered in the last class, it holds up the class. So attendance is mandatory. It's an accelerated program. You're taking 2 semesters in 1 semester, basically, is what I compared it to. It is 15 hours in classes a week, either 3 days or 3 evenings plus Saturday from 9 to 4. And it is all up front. That's presented in the beginning. So to have people, I've heard a couple of people in the second class that's going now complaining about that. And I'm the person that'll tell you the things you don't want to hear, but I'll always be fair and honest. And the fact of the matter is, they put that in writing ahead of time. So to come back and complain about it, I don't understand that attitude. And I know the goal is to get more FLSPs out there to assist people. Now, the scope, paralegals who had never done family law or worked in family law, they were all over social media saying, oh, the scope is too narrow. It's narrow, but there's a 3-year review. And we have to prove that this is working in the areas that have been approved in order that the scope can widen. So, for instance, in my practice, I am only doing process navigation, which is meeting with people and guiding them, but not having them under retainer. I am also offering services in joint divorces and simple uncontested divorces. But younger paralegals are now starting out in motions to change child support, name change applications, and I give them kudos and I tip my hat to them. They are going to tackle fro enforcement, family responsibility, support enforcement. Like that's amazing. Like, so, and that's just the start. So the motions to change are limited to people who are within the 150,000 guideline limit, and they are employees. They don't have businesses where the income has to be determined. And funny enough, I have not been actively advertising yet, but I've had more than 5 calls from people who they just the one spouse that pays support has continued to pay support, but it hasn't changed over 3 years. So I've had the other spouse phone me and say, how much do you charge to put this motion before the court and represent me? The family law portal and case lines. I don't know what you call that software, maybe. I'm not sure. The software the court requires people to use is not simple. Even for the divorce filings. It can be tricky. And if you are working full time and you have children and their extracurricular activities and your normal tasks that you do as an individual in your personal life, fighting with technology in the family court, it's, I think, much more beneficial to people, and they are agreeing with me. I surveyed them before the FLSP, and to hire somebody at a reasonable cost to complete those documents. So there are a lot of us. Some people took the program and they decided that family law wasn't for them. It can be, even if it's not contested, it can be a pretty emotional roller coaster. So there are some that aren't going forward with it, which is disappointing. I was hoping we'd have 100% that we're going to add it to their paralegal businesses, or we had a number of law clerks, family law clerks who are paralegals in firms, family law firms, and the law firms are adding the services of the FLSP now in FLSP scope and FLSP billing, which is really positive. So I'm quite excited about I say having my old business model back. It is how many years, JP? 17 years. 17 years. So I wanted to be in that first graduating class.
There, as we were saying, full circle, 17
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Now, on that, dating back to 1983, I think you had mentioned at the start.
Yeah.
One of the things there, and part of our larger conversation we've had about, again, success for students afterwards in building a business. And now you've had the opportunity of various firms that you've been a part of or running on your own. So anything that you can share from what you've learned, this time around, right, that you're going back into it. Obviously the kind of work has been a little different each time, but I mean, in terms of getting those sort of principal kind of documentation set up, and then getting the clients or building on the clients and in a practice management sense, I know you do CPDs there as well, but what can you share from all that wealth of experience of how to take all of that, connect your substantive law you may learn or are learning, and then the practical side, right? The business side and the law side, he has all sorts of different requirements that are also extremely important to be following. And
Mhm.
those change as well, right? I mean, contingency planning now and courses that need to be completed if you're starting a practice on your own for the first time. So what can you share from everything you've did? Like if you could do things differently or what you've learned, what do you have for us?
Okay. One thing I don't say very often, my first job in a law firm was a person Friday. I ran documents up to the registry office. I did law firm accounting. I replaced, back then there wasn't internet, and the Ontario reports came in binders. And every week we would get the updates to the Ontario reports, and I would have to take out the old pages and replace with the new ones. And then I was a legal secretary by the true definition of the word, and I had my work dictated to me. I wanted to be a law clerk like my next door neighbor, Heather. She was a law clerk on Bay Street in corporate law, and she wore these fabulous suits, and she talked about her office, and not with names, but big corporations that she did work for. And that's what I wanted to do. And I did achieve that. But to any student, get your foot in the door. Like that's what you've got to do. It may not be the position that you want immediately, but get your foot in the door and get in with a law firm, get some legal experience. It'll prove that you have been exposed to a high pressure environment, high stress environment, confidentiality provisions, conflict of interest, ticklers, the reminder system, just those basics like intake forms, verifications of identity. Any junior position, you're going to see those things. And then get out to a recruiter. And Kent Legal is a great one. Robert Half International, if you're looking for employment. You brought up an interesting point. I do have a professional development seminar. It's on practice management, and it provides a manual for paralegals. If you're going into private practice, you're required to have foundational documents, and we include confidentiality agreements, association agreements, technology agreements, anti-harassment policies for your business. Um, Anti-sexual harassment policy is another one required. Um, there are six bases on which paralegal may non-engage from a client. We provide six um, precedent non-engagement letters, engagement letters, retainers, limited scope retainers, which is all I practice under now since the Access to Justice Hub. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful way to offer services that people can afford and have access to. We provide different intake forms for different areas of law in that one. It's basically setting up the foundation of your practice, and that's where your challenge is. Too many times, like I set up a paralegal practice, I didn't have those foundational documents done. And the calls started coming in from clients, and lo and behold, business was crazy. And I see colleagues now, they're not returning calls. They say they're too busy and they're not organized and giving what they should because that foundation wasn't set. And I think in business, the most important thing to do is get that foundation. And the Law Society is offering that foundations and practice for a reason. Also, if you are a paralegal in business, especially a junior, I'm a coach and an advisor for the CAN network. A coach is someone who I believe they help paralegals an hour every week for free. Like mine, I didn't limit it to an hour, and it's a 6 week engagement. But I still have my mentees contacting me all the time. And I think a lot of coaches offer that service. Advisors, if you're working on a difficult file, contact the Coach and Advisor Network for an advisor. Oh, I got my first defamation case and they threw me a curveball, and they will line you up with an advisor or find a mentor. I mentor a lot of paralegals just informally, and it's having that person who you you can go to and not feel confident, but know that you're going to get information and you're not going to be asking, you're not going to be um, disciplined or have a supervisor's expectations lowered by asking a question that you think maybe I should know this. Enhance your education. I'm sorry, JP, what did I miss on that? I know I'm missing something on that.
Well, I mean, I think it really comes down to I mean, there's all these tools, and we were talking about it as well, right? I think you can't just simply just rely on all this information coming to you, right? You have
Mhm.
to go and seek that out, and you gotta,
Right.
there is, like you said, the coach and advisory network. There's opportunities there, but you also have to sort of seize the day on your own to take initiative, right? And I think that's a
Yeah.
combination, right? Because there are plenty of people doing many things, willing to help and willing to mentor and willing to help people grow. But you also have to be willing to be coached, right? Willing to be
Right. Yes.
inspired,
And
right?
your colleague, Justin Rochester, is very, very vocal about find yourself, if you're going into paralegal business, find yourself law firms who you can contract for and offer services. The lawyers who encouraged me to open a paralegal business, yes, it was in my best interest because I made more money than I would as an employee. However, I was taking on the burden of filing business taxes every year. And they no longer had to pay my CPP and my EI contributions and all of that. So it's a give and take. But Justin, he has an excellent opportunity for paralegals in that you graduate, you're not sure how you do things. Try to volunteer with a firm. Learn how to, or go into the courts. Watch those paralegals who are going into what we call remand court and setting trial dates. Lawyers pay paralegals to go in and attend on their adjournments, attend on their um, setting dates for hearings. And Justin is a huge one for speaking about that. And it can enhance your practice. Notary services can enhance your practice. And finding a niche. What do you have a passion for? I tell myself I'm not passionate for small claims, and yet the cases keep coming to me, and I say, oh, this is fascinating. And then before I know it, I'm representing on another litigation matter. So you have to determine what you have a passion for.
And certainly on small claims, right? That the scope is, I think a week and a bit away from
Yes.
going in a monetary jurisdiction up to 50,000, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
there's again many different opportunities to you can't kind of just sit on your laurels there and hope. Again, especially if you're applying all these jobs you're saying, even the ones you share, right? I mean, hundreds of people are also going for those, right? So you
Yeah.
have to kind of one look at ways to further improve, but two think outside the box. And I think that's an excellent way,
Yeah.
right? If you can get a little supplemental work from approaching some law firms and saying, hey, can I do some agency work? Can I shadow? Can I gain some knowledge? You're going to get far more respect as well. And then they're going to see
Yeah.
if you're cut out for it, right? And then it's a kind of an addition. And then maybe they'll refer
Absolutely.
some files to you or
Yeah.
have you working part-time, whatever it is. I mean, it's the new normal, right? You don't just simply start somewhere or work and then hope year after year you get a raise and a promotion and
Yeah.
there you go.
And also, if you are a paralegal student or a paralegal, you've got to get back out there in person. COVID's done. Sorry, it's finished. Online, we're seeing people are going back, and um, JP and Justin have started the town hall, the paralegal town hall, and go to those events. They're in person. And the first one I was at was over 100 people. There were CPDs presented in different classrooms. There's going to be a what's it called? December 6th. What are you calling it?
It's called the Paralegal Town Holiday Gala.
Okay. Yes. So the paralegal town holiday event. There's a mooting competition. And one thing with my CPDs, if students come, um, or unlicensed graduates, so you haven't obtained your license yet. I have a committee that works with me on my CPDs, and we offer sponsorships. So York Region Paralegal Network is having their ninth um, annual Law Summit Day. And that is the week of November 26th, on the Saturday. And that event is in person. It has a networking event on the Friday night before. And there will be paralegals, there will be adjudicator speakers, sometimes justices of the peace, students, and it's a wonderful time to network. In my CPDs, starting 2026, I will be traveling around the province to 4 locations per year to present a CPD. But what we did in Oshawa while I was at Durham College is we'd have the CPD, and then at 9 o'clock, we'd go out and have a social event and munchies that were paid for by us, and just socialize and network. So on at the end of each of my Zoom CPDs now, I've started having a socializing and networking hour on Zoom, and the attendees are loving it. And I'm getting like people just, when's the next one? When's the next one? And oh, can you tell me who that person was that said he'd mentor people in POA? And it's just an opportunity to expose you to the real world of what's out there. It's more than just going to your classes, doing your assignments, writing your tests, graduating, and then thinking that you will have the same opportunity as someone who on the resume has said, I volunteered for the town hall events. I volunteered for the York Region Paralegal Network. I was sponsored as a result of my application to marshal legal CPDs to the York Region Paralegal Summit Day. So these are things that are going to put you in a really, really enhanced positive light with both employers and in business. Because your first practice audit in business by the Law Society, they're going to see that you're doing these extracurricular things. You're not one of those paralegals that is just doing their minimum 12 hours. Hey, where can I find 12 hours of free CPDs? Right? You're doing it because you want to raise the bar to the profession by being a better paralegal professional, and that's what we need. The paralegal profession is 17 years old. It's the newest profession in Ontario. And I will tell you, doctors, lawyers, engineers, dentists, psychiatrists, and we go through all of the professions. They're hundreds of years old. It's going to take time for ours to grow. And we want to grow with the people who care and want to be better and make this profession reputable in everything it can be. And as we do that, the Law Society is going to give more scope.
Perfect. So, Laurie, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today. If you have any final words of wisdom, you've had thousands, if not tens of thousands of students and licensees and people you've mentored over the years and professionals you've worked with. So anything that you can summarize, quickly there, of advice for those who are listening. And once again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I would just advise you get on LinkedIn and read what students and paralegals are posting. Look through the job ads. Look through what qualifications. I just did a free job searching seminar, and look through the qualifications of ads for paralegals. What are they looking for? The 5 top ones are excellent oral and written communication skills. Number 2 is the ability to work in a stressful, high pressure environment. Get a job at Tim Hortons, because I tell you, when I'm hiring people, if they've survived Tim Hortons for over a year, I know that they will survive a high pressure environment. Um, Learn to be flexible, adapt to change, and multitask. Excellent time management and organizational skills, and the ability to work with others or take a leadership role if required. Those are top skills, and you're going to get these by going out in person, networking, attending CPDs, attending other Zoom events. The Law Society, JP, I'll post it, and maybe you could. But for students, Access to Justice Week is coming. And Access to Justice Week is put on by the Law Society, free events, and some directed at students on the Monday and Tuesday of that week. It might be the third week in October, but don't quote me on that. Um, so just keep your eyes open and look at the big picture because honestly, I know a lot of people use paralegals as a stepping stone to being a lawyer, but we have lots of paralegals, and many of them aren't on social media who are making well over three, four, $500,000 a year and doing very, very well. So, and they're passionate about what they do. You don't hear from them as much because they're very busy, because they're passionate in their practices. But the sky is the limit for you. Don't look at yourself as second class to lawyers because you're not. We're our own profession and we have to grow it and give ourselves an excellent reputation.
Perfect. So once again, Laurie, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. And the Access to Justice Week is October 27th to October 31st.
Good.
And the YRPN's summit, I believe it's November 22nd. And then the social is the day before the 21st. So for anyone
Super.
who's interested in that, and again, I think stronger together, one of the phrases that we have, there's all these great events and people like yourself doing a lot of professional development. It's important that, we're all connected and build on that, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's the only way the profession will move forward is together with and not just only paralegals, right? I mean, there's law clerks, as you mentioned. There are
Yeah.
students. There are judges, justices of the peace, right? And lawyers and everyone there to kind of be concentrated on the next generation and moving things forward. So once
That's
again,
right.
thanks everyone, and all the best. Take
Thank
care.
you.